Well, guys, it's over. Game of Thrones had its very last episode, and I wanted to talk about it today. I know I haven't been doing too many videos lately, but everyone's talking about this big, huge, TV event, the very last episode of Game of Thrones, and it's been such a staple of TV and has had such a huge following that was always growing over the years throughout its 8 seasons. And so now that it's over, the eighth season has been unleashed upon us. Definitely, people have been sharing their thoughts, and I wanted to contribute to that a little bit. Say goodbye to the show. Talk about how it wrapped up, and in particular this last season and this last episode. The last episode, season 8, episode 6. Yes, only 6 episodes. The season is titled "The Iron Throne," which is very appropriate because it's all about the Iron Throne, the Game of Thrones. Obviously, spoilers in this video, so just giving you a heads up on that front. So, Game of Thrones has been something I've talked about on this channel previously. Seems like a million years ago, doesn't it? that I've been talking about Game of Thrones. I first talked about it. I think once season 7 or season 2, I should say. Yeah, I only caught up last year. It was pretty good, great year. But some people have had that experience, so wouldn't devalue that anyway. But it started around season 2 when it came to Blu-ray, and I talked about it then. Said the usual things you might hear from someone experiencing the show for the first time. Wow, this is so great, best show of all time. Never can predict what's going to happen next. It plays with my emotions, all that stuff. And then by season 4, I think I had enough of that. I talked about it on the channel again for the second last episode, and then I think I talked about the season as a whole. So 2 videos there. The big matchup between Oberyn Martell, Pedro Pascal, and the Mountain. That episode, I was like, there's too much. I can't get into these characters and end up really thinking they're cool and caring for them and thinking, yeah, they're gonna win the day, right? So that's kind of the whole punishment of the story. Don't back up anybody in this goddamn show because you're gonna be disappointed unless it's Jon Snow, I guess. But even then, I don't know. Even Jon Snow fans are like, maybe that ending could have been better for him, and I kind of agree with that. But anyway, basically, after season 4, I kind of tapped out of the show a little bit. Actually, I took maybe 2 years off of watching it, but then it was kind of fun actually to catch up. I think around season 7 actually. So that's when I decided I got to get back into this. We're nearing the end. Let's see what's going on, and a lot of stuff happened between seasons 5, 6, and 7. So a lot of revelations, plenty more deaths, and now we've got to this final season, which I was very excited for. But as someone who, I guess I'd consider myself, definitely a fan of the show, but I don't know, I only read 2 of the books, and I know people are very passionate about the book when it comes to adapting into the show. They didn't do this right, they didn't do that. This character's still alive, they completely missed this plot point, blah, 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 stuff like that. So, I'd definitely give value to those who are fans and realize that it's an imperfect adaptation. Though a lot of people would argue that the first, let's say, 3 seasons, maybe even 4 seasons, were really, really good adaptations. But then what happened? The books ran out. George R. R. Martin still writing them, so they kind of had to work on, I guess, I don't know, just broader notes than what was previously available. The books for the other seasons. So one of the big complaints I'm seeing, one of the prominent criticisms of this final season, or even last, pretty much at any point when the books ran out and they kind of did their own thing, was that everything kind of was moving too fast. And I agree with that to a certain extent, because there's one half of me that thinks, well, okay, this is a big deal. It's coming to a close. Season 8, that's it, we're done. And that's exciting in a sense to see the finality of it, and see what they've done for this finale, right? But then another part is, they could have easily kept this going for 20 seasons or so with all the source material in the books, and shit they surely could have made up themselves. But they wanted to give it a close, and I do understand that because as someone who's kind of walking the line between passionate fan, not really, not like so much that like I'd you know go into the books. So I've watched a lot of like lore videos on the history of Westeros and things like that, and other character backgrounds. I love stuff like that, and I have my own lore channel myself. So I love watching stuff like that and really getting immersed into the world. And it really made me value the novels. But there's that part that thinks, I would probably at some point I would probably get bored again, right? Or tap out in some way again, where it would become this show. Let's say going into season 12. Well, there'll be people going, "Oh, Game of Thrones, that's still on that show? Jesus, how much dragons and incest can you fit into a show?" Apparently a lot. So I understand that, and the want for it to still go, the show to still go out on top, right? If not critically or fan ratings wise, then at least in popularity. This is season 8. This is the hugest show. It's like people have said this is the last great uniter of audiences all tuning into the show at the same time. You don't see that much with the streaming age. So I think like close to 20 million people were watching on Sunday night for the finale. So that's where we are. We're at the finale, and so a lot has happened. Basically, generally, as this episode starts, it goes right from the ending of the last episode, where there's quite a big shift in occurrences where Daenerys, Emilia Clarke, the wonderful Khaleesi, who we've all come to love since the beginning of the show, so much so that a lot of people are pointing this out too. Like, yeah, some people were such big fans they named their kid Daenerys, or they named their kid Khaleesi, and now the character may be seen in a different light, and I think it is a good twist in a way. Like, on paper it's a good twist. I really do think it's a good twist, and it kind of ties into the whole how fast do we end this, what do we sacrifice in terms of telling the overall story, where this season, like every single episode almost could have been a season closer. They went pretty big. You can't say that they didn't give us like the biggest, most epic, money on the screen kind of final season. Which there's some extraordinary episodes here that are really like pushing the boundaries of what you'd see. It feels very theatrical as opposed to seeing something on a television screen, right? So they went really big there, and I respect that. But the twist with Dany, if you want to call it a twist, which maybe it is, maybe it isn't, that's where a lot of people take a little bit of issue, I guess. Like, I guess kind of what the intention was, I guess, was that it's not so much a twist, not so much a change of character, like, the bells made Daenerys, boom, I'm evil now, haha. No, it's more, she's kind of been this way all along, but we just didn't really kind of pay too much attention to it, or at least justified it to ourselves because we like the character so much, and the other characters she's wronging and liberating, and burning and all that stuff, we can justify that. We don't know who the fuck they are. Who cares, right? Yeah, they had slaves. They're bad. All that kind of stuff. So the goal here, I think, is not so much to do this big character twist, but to kind of turn around on the audience, right? And make us think, hey, did we really invest all this? That's my phone. Did we really invest all this, motion into a character? Did we really come to love this character so much and not really realize that maybe she is a tyrant herself, maybe she doesn't have the best ideas in mind, maybe she's a little too ruthless with her Targaryen blood, and I get that, and I think that's part of the reason why they had to move at such a breakneck pace as they did, because if let's say battle Battle of Winterfell was, let's say it was like the last episode of a season, right? You kind of think, okay, fine, whatever. And then let's say The Bells was the last episode of another season. Let's say they drew it on that far. Well, for one thing, people already were seeing something like this coming, even like for years before this season. It's going to come, I can tell. People were warning of that, so I guess they didn't want to be too far behind the fans and the audience. Like, really, the biggest enemy aren't the writers. I think it's the fans who give all this shit away, put the pressure on the writers to stay a step ahead of us, which they've always done, which they try to do again here, which I think they do somewhat successfully, but it is at the cost of, I don't know, being able to buy it or accept it as an audience member. You kind of think, well, okay, fine, she's gone evil, sort of, but at the same time, as we see her in this episode, there's great stuff, as you can clearly see in this wonderful in-video link, which maybe we'll get copyright strikes, or maybe it won't. I don't know how the fuck YouTube works, so, I'll put in the HD clips, and we'll give HBO some more money for my video. But yeah, this will be flagged anyway, I guarantee it, just because it has Game of Thrones in the title. But that's YouTube. Anyway, yeah, so that was the big challenge in doing this reveal and doing it in a way that at least made some. And that's a really cool shot, by the way. That's fucking awesome. So we reveal that she's evil, but then, like, she's always had these kinds of speeches too. She's like, I'm going to liberate, I'm going to tear the cities down. And we're just like, oh, you're so cute. I'm going to name my daughter after you. Yeah, great, whatever. But yeah, we're finally, as Jon is, so we kind of take him as this surrogate to the events unfolding, and we can most kind of relate to him in terms of how we're feeling about what's unfolding before us, and reevaluating how much we really love Daenerys, which, there's that. So with The Bells, I thought they did a good job with that episode, and I thought it was a nice touch that, like, once they show her finally making that decision, they don't cut back to her yet. But then here she is in this next episode, the very final episode. She's making the same kind of speech she's always made, and she's had the same kind of demeanor that she's always had. She's very bright and hopeful, and she believes in herself that she is this great liberator, that she is the mother of dragons. Nothing can stop her. She's going to free the whole world, make the world good, because she knows what is best for the world, and she will lead and burn those who don't follow her. Take women and children and entire cities down and burn them all. For the greater good, obviously. So we're left with that dilemma as the audience. But then, what happens? We kind of know, like, because it tells us in our, brain of having watched all these stories before. We've always praised Game of Thrones so much for staying a step ahead of us and for having these very appropriate fates for characters that make sense and that were foreshadowed well. And you could argue that it all sort of is for Dany, and you can argue that it wasn't too. And a lot of people are doing both, and such is the internet. Everyone's having a great time, but yeah, you reevaluate how you feel about Dany. And you kind of decide along with Jon that she has to die. And there we are. We figuring this out at the end of the last episode or at the end of the second last episode, where the last episode is going to go. So everyone already kind of knows this is what the story dictates. It has to go this way, because all of a sudden it's being driven by the plot points that we can suspect George R.R. Martin left D.B. Weiss and David Benioff with. So as opposed to kind of building their own details, they just went for boom, boom, the big points, did it all in this last season, which you kind of can't blame them for, because, what are they going to do? They want to go out on top, and that's essentially what they're doing here. And if they made The Bells the last episode, or the last episode of, say, a season, and they continued another season, we'd know the whole season, that this is how it's going to end. So they kind of, since it is just so different, the TV series, like, we praise it for being such a different type of TV show that makes us, question how stories are told, and how we follow stories as the audience, and how we invest in the characters, and how every character has a seemingly real world consequence for whatever actions that they take or decisions that they make. So it's kind of trained us that way. But then where does it all come back to? It comes back to, well, Dany good. Maybe she's not so good. Okay, Dany evil now. Jon Snow good? Yeah, Jon Snow's good. So he has to fight her and kill her. And, we sense that he's conflicted about it. As we are, as we're supposed to be. But maybe the effect just wasn't as good as it could have been or should have been, because it all just goes so fast, but we kind of know where it's going. And, a lot of crazy stuff happens with the dragon, Drogon, burning down the throat instead of Jon. And I was like, what's that about? Well, symbolism. Yes. He had to kill the symbolic... The real cause of Dany's death was the Iron Throne, not Jon, who stabbed her. But anyway, then there's just a lot of stuff that doesn't make too much sense, and it feels like we are just getting points of things, like characters make decisions that we kind of question, things like that. Obviously, during this whole ordeal, we are worried for Tyrion, who's become a fan favorite, and he does his shtick where he's kind of convincing Jon to do the right thing once he's taken prisoner and all that. And yeah, he does make valid points. He basically speaks for the audience and how we're feeling. Pretty much, it's almost right on the nose where he said, "Oh, she did all these terrible things, and we cheered for her." And Jon's like, "I don't know, she's my queen." And it's like, okay, this was the last episode. Let's get this done. Let's move on. So we still, like, when it comes to that point in the story, we still kind of wonder, is he gonna do the right thing, which is something that has been foreshadowed. A lot of people are bringing up the Maester, who is a Targaryen from the earlier seasons, who went to the Wall, and he gave up a claim to the throne himself in the Targaryen line because he thought it was the right thing to do. What was the saying? It's, love is the death of duty, and maybe duty is the death of love, and all that stuff. So it tries to bring the whole thematic portion of love and decisions and doing the right thing. It tries to bring it home, and it uses Jon for that, because we've come to, at least at this point, trust in Jon that he's going to do the right thing, even though we were trusting in Dany and thought she was going to do the right thing until that very second last episode, and we're kind of like, maybe not. But yeah, there's that. So it comes to its logical conclusion there. And Peter Dinklage, he's since season 2, he's been top billed in this show. Before Sean Bean, then that was the big twist that he dies. But this has been his show, so we kind of want to see him get out of it. And they give him a lot to work with in this particular episode. He has the big speeches, letting Jon know all that stuff. And he has, at the end, he has another big speech, which is kind of cheesy, like, "Oh, yes, what is the best quality of a king? Stories, right? Yes, Bran has a good story. King Bran!" Yeah, well, spoilers, yeah, that's what happens, King Bran. I don't know. I'm not super enthused about that, because they leave a lot of things where you're confused about, like, what the fuck is going on. Like, you think, okay, well, Jon killed the queen. You'd think Grey Worm would, just immediately kill him, because, like, the Drogon, he snatched her up, flew away. So there's no, habeas corpus or whatever. So Jon could have said anything he wanted, but we know Jon. We can assume that he said, "I killed her. I killed my queen." Which, it might have been useful to see what happened. Maybe if they, I don't know, just give us one or two more. Who the fuck knows? Who knows? But, it would have been nice to see. But we can assume he said that, and then they just throw him in jail, along with Tyrion, and await whatever. We're not even really sure how much time has passed. Or maybe they said it, maybe it was like 2 weeks. Maybe it was longer. I don't know. But how it resolves is Tyrion makes his speech. Grey Worm just stands there. He doesn't know what to do. He's like, "Don't speak, you're a prisoner." Then he goes on to give a big speech. And there's a council there, and everyone kind of representing these parts. There's a Dorne guy. There's the titty milk kid who's grown up. Theon's sister, who conveniently disappeared after the first episode of this, we'll hang out over here. You guys will do fine. Whatever. Anyway, and a whole bunch of other people. Sansa's uncle, and I suppose Bran's uncle as well. He makes an ass out of himself. Sam's there. He's like, we should do democracy, haha, and gets a big laugh and all that stuff. And just a bunch of stupid. Swell the music. Have everyone kind of come to this great revelation, like, yeah, yes, Bran is perfect. And meanwhile, is he? I don't know. Like, they haven't established well enough, like, what Bran's deal kind of is. Like, is he? He's not Bran anymore. He's the three-eyed raven. So, he's technically not King Bran. And that's, of course, led to other theories that maybe this finale isn't as storybook perfect as we thought it was. Maybe there's something insidious going on. Bran working with, the desires of the forest children, or the whatever they're, children of the forest. I don't know. It's been a long 8 years. A lot of shit has happened in this show. So we think maybe there's an evil plan going on, and he saw all of this through his psychic visions and chose to just let it kind of play out the way it should to his favor. And then he's king. Bran the Broken is what they call him. He's king. The North is independent. Sansa's like, fine, you're king, but I'm going to do my own thing because you're kind of weird, man. You can't have kids, which is, may or may not be, he's crippled, but, whatever. Anyway, so they resolve that, and Jon goes back to the Wall as punishment for killing the Queen, which is an absolutely meaningless gesture when you think of it, like to Grey Worm at least, where he's kind of demanding justice, right, for the Queen who's been killed and flown away mysteriously to who knows where. So Jon's like, I'll take the oath. I'll go to the Wall again and live out my days there, never take a wife, blah blah blah, all that stuff. But meanwhile, like, that's not part of the Unsullied culture. So you can't even wonder why he would accept that. Like, why he would. The second Grey Worm walks in, sees Jon there, sees Daenerys missing maybe a little bit of blood, slit his fucking throat. He wasn't showing any mercy for the Lannister people at the beginning of the episode. So why should that even make? Why should he follow any kind of due process? So that's something a lot of people brought up. I'll bring it up too because I think it's it's sort of an issue, isn't it? And like, you think, so he's just okay, fine, whatever. Let's just end this fucking show. So that all happens, and it would have been really useful to see a scene like that, and not this kind of weird time jump. And so it ends for all the characters. Bran is king, Sansa's she's Queen of the North essentially. So I thought her whole arc throughout the series was really good. I always liked Sansa as a character. I always liked Arya, and I know Arya gets a lot of criticism for like, oh, she's just way too badass and she can't. That's my phone. But I don't know where it is. Oh, here it is. Hello? Hello? Hi. I'm recording a video. I'm talking about Game of Thrones. So Arya, even though people think plot armor, people love to say that plot armor. I don't know. I think her surviving is cool, and her killing the Night King was cool. All that stuff was really cool to me. I don't take too much issue to it, and I know maybe some people will, but I don't know. I think she's earned it. She's had, like, you can't complain, again, another thing, people love to just learn these little stupid phrases and use them as if it means anything. Mary Sue, blah, 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 shut the fuck up. Can't use that excuse. She's had her mysterious magical training or whatever. I don't know. Maybe she's a Mary Sue. Who cares? But anyway, I thought it ended pretty well. In a general sense of things. Like, I liked seeing Arya's final ending. She's like going off to explore or whatever. That's kind of fun. Jon off to the Wall, even though he's going to be basically king beyond the North, I guess is the idea there. He's in good with the wildlings. There's no more White Walkers to be afraid of, right? So things maybe, like, it's about a new beginning. It's about exploring new worlds, right? So Arya's exploring west of Westeros. Jon's exploring beyond the Wall. See what else is out there. Maybe more White Walkers. I heard there was like an alternate ending, or like a Marvel after credits thing where like they find more White Walkers. That would have been cool. It would have been cool to see like just like this big like snowy dune and like the dragon, and then like out of the fog you see like Daenerys is the Night Queen, like blue eyes, just like glowing. That would have been so cool. I would have been like, yeah, okay, I can deal with that. That's a good ending, but they kind of hint that there might be more. Like there might be a 10-year reunion. Like Tyrion says, "Tell me again in 10 years," or whatever he says. I think that might be interesting to see if things have went well, which I can't imagine that they do, because Bronn is so strange. But also because like, what's to stop somebody somewhere at some point being like, oh, this is fucking stupid. This guy slit his fucking throat, but he would see that and, you know, maybe he could avoid it. I don't know. It's just stupid. Kind of a stupid ending. And they write a Song of Ice. Well, Jim Broadbent writes it, I guess. He's back up there in the Citadel or whatever the fuck. I don't know. There's a lot in this show. And Sam helped with the title, right? A Song of Ice and Fire. Yes, very nice. Wrapped up. There and back again, right? So that kind of ending to it and all that. There have been parallels to Lord of the Rings. And of course there are, because George R. R. Martin has admitted several times that he's a fan of Tolkien. He's inspired by Tolkien and all that good stuff. So I see generally an inspiration from that there. And, you know, it could have been a worse ending. I think it's a fine ending. I think it's somewhat satisfying. The thing is, it's that it did end, right? So we're never going to feel completely satisfied with whatever, and no matter what. And like, I'm extremely happy for some of my like favorite characters who didn't die for a change on this show. Davos I've always loved, and his arc has been great. Bronn, I love. I'm happy to see him get a good job at the end of it. Brienne, she had a very nice ending too. She, you know, wrote in Jaime's book and kind of gave him some closure, given him a good, because, you know, that was like a reoccurring kind of thing on the show where there's the Book of Nights, the Great White Book, and he has like 3 lines. So she contributed more. And like, even just kind of like as a microcosm of how this show kind of treats its fans and how we're trying to be a lot of people brought up too, like, she closed the book before the ink was dry. Like, that's, boom, that's it. Like, you know, a little detail like that they don't even care about. That's kind of what it was. Previous seasons, let's say, yeah, up to 6, let's say the 6 seasons. You always kind of would think back and go, oh yeah, that makes sense, or you know, this is logically congruent with the story, or whatever you want to say. Like, it was always kind of a step ahead of us until it wasn't, until we got far ahead of it, despite it trying. Like, apparently they, you know, had fake out endings and, you know, false leaks and all that kind of stuff to kind of throw us off the trail for the final episode. But I did hear leaks, and everyone's theories about Dany becoming evil were true, and it didn't surprise, I guess. In fact, it kind of had, you know, a wrapped up in a bow kind of ending, I think, which is strange for it was a very, very happy ending, but you can take kind of insidious things from kind of think, oh, maybe not. I don't know. I didn't hate it. I didn't hate the finale. I just thought, I don't know, they could have done a better job, but at the same time, I kind of understand why they went the way they went and why they did it in the way that they did. The greater the risk, the greater reward, I guess. It was a great risk, maybe not reward. Though, I mean, like, HBO ratings were surely great. Again, close to 20 million people on, like, 2 or 3 HBO Go accounts. Yeah, that's a joke that everyone makes. But people will probably be canceling. I'll stick with HBO for a little bit. I like Barry. I think it's a pretty good show. And I've been visiting back the old Sopranos episodes, which was another show that had an ending that couldn't possibly deliver. And that, you know, like 10 years ago now, people were talking about that ending and how that ending was stupid. So it's cyclical, all these shows. And no show ever has a great, except for Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad was the best. They did everything right. They always stayed ahead of the audience, and they had an ending that satisfied most fans, but still left a little bit much, a little bit to have people wonder, oh, maybe they could continue this. So I liked all that. Game of Thrones, it's been a wild ride, very emotionally distressing ride, but with great characters, great rich storytelling, to a point. But if anything, this makes me very excited for the books that are coming, which should have these same beats, but done in a different way, executed differently. So that'd be very interesting to see. And got to give it to Emilia Clarke, who I still love Dany. I kind of, part of me wishes, like, you know, they just kind of, we'll rule together. We'll figure something out. You know, semi happy ending. Side eyes from Sansa, maybe, but I don't know. But she did a great performance as Daenerys Stormborn. She's gonna be who everyone remembers from this show. Jon Snow has the heroic role, sure, but our hearts all belong to Khaleesi, I think, which is ultimately why I think this final season and final episode has been so controversial. But maybe she'll be back as a White Walker, as a Night Queen. Who knows? See you in 10 years. But that's it. That's my review, my thoughts on Season 8, Episode 6, The Iron Throne. It's all over now. We're done. And if the episode itself wasn't as bittersweet as maybe they intended, then certainly just the act of this show ending is a bittersweet moment in and of itself. They went out on top. Biggest ratings on a show, like, not critical ratings, but like, you know, viewership ratings, popularity. They went out in an 8-season blaze of glory. Almost can't blame them, but another part of me can. So I think I'll reach for the catharsis of watching other videos reviewing this that maybe aren't as kind as me. But as I'm watching their final kiss between the Targaryen lovers, and the betrayal, the stab in the heart, makes me a little sad. But Daenerys, love you anyway. Thanks for watching. That's it. I know I haven't been doing too many videos on this channel lately, but I'm trying. It's always on my mind. I swear. I'm just, you know, I'm trying to figure some things out. But the night is long and dark. The night is long and full of terrors, horrors. I don't know. It's a good show. Check it out. Game of Thrones. Thanks for watching.